No mother wants to cast a shadow over her son's happiness with a secret like this, but I knew my son's bride had slept with my husband. My name is Eleanor Mitchell, and at 73, I thought I'd seen it all. My husband Richard passed away 5 years ago after 48 years of marriage. Our son Derek was our only child, and I'd always been grateful he'd finally found someone to love. At 42, he'd proposed to Melissa, a beautiful woman 15 years his junior. I should have been thrilled. For years, I'd worried about Derek growing old alone after a string of failed relationships. When he called me, voice cracking with joy, to tell me he was getting married, I cried tears of happiness. Finally, my boy had found someone. The wedding preparations went smoothly. Melissa was efficient and decisive, qualities I admired. Though sometimes distant with me, I chalked it up to pre-wedding stress. We weren't particularly close, but I hoped that would change after the wedding. 2 nights before the ceremony, I was helping with last-minute preparations at Derek's house. Melissa was out with her bridesmaids for a final fitting. Derek had stepped out to pick up his tuxedo, leaving me alone to organize some family photos for the reception slideshow. In Derek's office, I searched through the desk drawers for the old family albums. In the bottom drawer, beneath some files, I found a small wooden box I'd never seen before. Curiosity got the better of me. Inside were letters, dozens of them, and my heart stopped when I recognized Richard's handwriting. My hands trembled as I unfolded the first letter. "My dearest Melissa," it began. The room seemed to spin around me as I read on, discovering intimate details of an affair between my husband and the woman my son was about to marry. The letters dated back 7 years. Richard had been alive then, and according to what I read, he and Melissa had been involved for nearly a year. The most recent letter was from shortly before his heart attack. In it, he mentioned ending things because he couldn't bear the guilt anymore. I felt sick. Memories surfaced. Richard's unexplained absences, late nights at work, the weekend conferences. All lies. And Melissa, she'd met Derek 2 years after Richard died. Had she sought him out? Was this some twisted game to her? I heard the front door open and quickly returned everything to its place. Derek called out, his voice cheerful, unaware that his world was about to shatter. Or worse, that I might choose to keep this secret buried forever. "Mom, you still here?" Derek appeared in the doorway, garment bag slung over his shoulder, a wide smile on his face. "Can you believe it's just 2 days away?" I forced a smile, the weight of my discovery crushing my chest. "Yes, dear, just 2 days." "You okay, Mom? You look pale." "Just tired," I lied, the first of what might become many lies. Wedding preparations are exhausting at my age. He laughed, blissfully ignorant of the storm raging inside me. "Well, don't overdo it. I need you in top form to dance with your son." As I drove home that night, my mind raced with impossible choices. Should I tell Derek and destroy his happiness? Keep the secret and watch him marry a woman who had betrayed him before they'd even met? Confront Melissa privately? By the time I reached my driveway, tears streamed down my face. In 48 hours, my son would be saying his vows, and I had to decide whether to speak or remain silent about a truth that could tear our family apart. But what I didn't know then was that someone had seen me reading those letters, and the situation was about to become far more complicated than I could have imagined. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Richard's handwriting, those intimate words meant for Melissa's eyes only. The betrayal cut deep. Not just that my husband had cheated, but that the woman my son loved had kept this secret while planning to join our family. Morning came with no clarity. I made coffee I couldn't drink and toast I couldn't eat. Around 9, my phone rang. It was Melissa. My hand shook as I answered. "Eleanor? It's Melissa. I was wondering if you could come over early today. There are some things we need to discuss about the ceremony." Her voice sounded normal, perhaps a bit strained. Did she know what I'd discovered? "Of course," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'll be there in an hour." I dressed carefully, as if putting on armor for battle. The drive to Derek's house felt like traveling to my own execution. When I arrived, Melissa's car was in the driveway, but Derek's was gone. She opened the door before I could knock. Melissa was beautiful in that effortless way, tall and slender with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. Today, those eyes were watchful, calculating. "Derek's gone to pick up his parents from the airport," she said, leading me to the kitchen. "We have some time alone." The kitchen island was clear, except for a familiar wooden box. My heart sank. "You found the letters?" Not a question. I nodded, unable to speak. "And you read them?" Again, not a question. "Yes," I admitted. "Melissa, how could you? He's my son." She sighed, running her fingers over the box. "I knew this day might come. I just hoped it would be after the wedding." "Did you seek out Derek because of Richard? Is this some kind of sick revenge or game?" The questions that had tormented me all night tumbled out. Melissa looked genuinely surprised. "Is that what you think? That I pursued Derek because of Richard?" She shook her head. "It wasn't like that at all." "Then explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, you had an affair with my husband, and now you're marrying my son. What am I supposed to think?" She poured 2 cups of coffee, sliding one toward me. "I met Richard at a charity function. He never mentioned having a son. He told me he was in an unhappy marriage, staying together for appearance's sake. He looked directly at me. I assumed that was a lie." I nodded stiffly. Richard and I had our problems, but nothing that justified infidelity. When I found out he was married, really married, I ended it. The last time I saw him was when he gave me that final letter. She pushed the coffee away untouched. 2 years later, I met Derek at a work conference. I had no idea he was Richard's son until he invited me to dinner and showed me family photos. "And you didn't think to break it off then?" My voice rose. "You didn't think that was important information to share?" By then, I was already falling in love with him. Derek is nothing like his father. He's honest, faithful, everything Richard wasn't. I couldn't bring myself to lose him, and telling him would only hurt him deeply. I laughed bitterly. "So you've built your relationship on a lie." "On an omission," she corrected. "A painful truth that serves no purpose except to hurt the man we both love." "We?" I challenged. "Do you really love my son, or is he some consolation prize?" Her eyes flashed with anger. "I love Derek more than I ever thought possible. What happened with Richard was a mistake, the biggest of my life. But meeting Derek was fate, giving me a second chance." I stood up, trembling. "He deserves to know the truth." "And what will that accomplish, besides destroying him?" "Richard is gone. The affair is over. Telling Derek now would only take away his happiness." As I struggled for a response, the front door opened. Derek's voice called out cheerfully from the hallway, and I heard unfamiliar voices, his future in-laws. Melissa's eyes met mine, pleading, "Please, Eleanor, I'll do anything. Just don't tell him. Not now." Before I could respond, Derek appeared in the doorway, his smile faltering as he sensed the tension in the room. "Everything okay in here?" What I decided in that moment would change all our lives forever, but I had no idea just how complicated things were about to become. "Everything's fine, honey," I said, forcing a smile. "Just going over some last-minute details." Derek looked between us, not entirely convinced. "Mom, these are Melissa's parents, James and Catherine Ross." I turned to greet them, grateful for the distraction. They seemed pleasant enough. James, tall and distinguished, with salt and pepper hair. Catherine, petite, with Melissa's same striking blue eyes. "So wonderful to finally meet you," Catherine said, embracing me. "We've heard so much about you." I wondered what exactly they'd heard. Did they know about their daughter's affair with my husband? The next hour passed in strained pleasantries. I kept catching Melissa watching me anxiously. When Derek suggested showing his future in-laws around the neighborhood, I seized my chance. "Actually, dear, I'd like Melissa to help me with something for the rehearsal dinner. Woman stuff," I added with a wink that felt like a grimace. Once we were alone again, I didn't mince words. "I won't tell him before the wedding." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you, Eleanor. I held up my hand. "I'm not finished. I won't ruin his wedding day, but afterward, you will tell him the truth. All of it. If you don't, I will." "But—" "No buts," I said firmly. "You claim to love my son. Prove it by being honest with him. He deserves a marriage without secrets this big." Melissa sank into a chair. "He'll leave me." "Perhaps. That's his choice to make, not yours to take from him." I gathered my purse. "You have until you return from your honeymoon. After that, the truth comes out one way or another." As I drove home, I questioned my decision. Was I doing the right thing? Derek was finally happy. Why couldn't I let sleeping dogs lie? But deeper than my desire to protect Derek's happiness was my conviction that marriages shouldn't start with secrets. Richard and I had our problems, but I'd always believed honesty was our foundation. Learning of his betrayal posthumously had shaken that belief, but it didn't change my values. The rehearsal dinner that evening was a master class in pretense. I smiled, toasted, and played the proud mother while carrying the weight of what I knew. Melissa avoided me expertly, staying surrounded by friends and family. Later, as guests mingled over dessert, Catherine Ross approached me on the terrace. "Beautiful evening," she commented, sipping her wine. "You must be so proud of Derek. He's a wonderful young man." "I am," I agreed. "He deserves every happiness." She studied me for a moment. "You know, don't you?" I tensed. "Know what?" "About Melissa and your husband." Her voice was calm, matter-of-fact. I nearly dropped my glass. "You knew?" Catherine nodded. "Melissa told us when things got serious with Derek. She was terrified we'd let something slip." She sighed. "My daughter made a terrible mistake, Eleanor, but she truly loves your son." "If she loved him, she would have been honest from the start." "Perhaps," Catherine conceded, "but love and fear aren't mutually exclusive. She was afraid of losing him. And now I'm giving her an ultimatum that might cause exactly that." I admitted. Catherine touched my arm gently. "Is it really your place to force this confession? Is it really your place to question my decision about my son?" I countered. She smiled sadly. "Touché. Just consider what you're really hoping to achieve. Is it justice, honesty, or punishment?" Before I could answer, Derek appeared, slipping his arm around my shoulders. "What are you two conspiring about?" "Just mother of the groom and mother of the bride bonding," Catherine replied smoothly. "Well, don't plot anything too devious," he joked. "I'm taking Mom home. It's a big day tomorrow, and she needs her beauty sleep." Guilt twisted in my stomach. I wouldn't miss it for anything. As I watched him drive away, Catherine's question echoed in my mind. What was I really hoping to achieve? And was I prepared for the consequences? What I didn't realize was that someone else had been watching our conversation on the terrace, someone who had their own reasons for wanting the truth to come out sooner rather than later. Wedding day dawned bright and clear. I'd barely slept, haunted by both Richard's betrayal and my own duplicity in allowing the ceremony to proceed. As I dressed in my pale blue mother of the groom outfit, I wondered if I was making a monumental mistake. My phone rang. My sister Barbara, calling from Florida. "Today's the big day," she chirped. "How are you holding up?" Barbara had been my confidant since childhood. Before I could stop myself, everything came tumbling out. The letters, Melissa's affair with Richard, my ultimatum. "Oh, Ellie," she breathed when I finished. "What a nightmare." "Am I doing the right thing?" I asked, desperate for reassurance, letting them marry when this secret hangs over everything. "Honestly, I don't know. But I do know that whatever you decide, I support you. Derek's lucky to have a mother who cares so deeply about his happiness." Her words provided little comfort as I arrived at the botanical garden where the ceremony would take place. The venue was stunning. White chairs arranged on manicured lawns, floral arches, and ribbon-draped gazebos. In another context, it would have been magical. I found Derek in a small building serving as the groom's quarters. He looked handsome in his tuxedo, nervously adjusting his cufflinks. "Mom," his face lit up. "What do you think? Too nervous?" I straightened his boutonniere. "You look perfect." "I can't believe it's finally happening. After everything, all the failed relationships, I found her, Mom, the one person who truly understands me." Each word was a dagger. I forced a smile. "I'm happy for you, sweetheart." His best man, Oliver, interrupted to discuss some last-minute details, and I excused myself, needing air. As I stepped outside, I nearly collided with James Ross. "Eleanor," he nodded stiffly. Unlike his wife, James had been cold toward me since arriving. "James," I responded, equally formal. "Beautiful day for a wedding." "Is it?" His tone was challenging. "Catherine told me about your conversation last night." "Did she now?" I felt my defenses rise. "Melissa made a mistake, one that has nothing to do with Derek. Your husband pursued her, you know, not the other way around." "That hardly matters now, does it?" His expression hardened. "What matters is that you're threatening to destroy my daughter's happiness over something that happened years ago with a man who's dead." "I'm giving her the chance to be honest with my son," I corrected. "Something she should have done before accepting his proposal." "And if Derek can't handle the truth? If he leaves her?" James stepped closer. "Will it make you happy, knowing you've ruined both their lives?" "It's not about making me happy," I insisted. "It's about revenge," he cut in, "on your husband through my daughter." The accusation stung, because part of me wondered if he was right. Was I really concerned about Derek's right to know, or was I punishing Melissa for what she'd done with Richard? Before I could respond, I noticed one of Derek's cousins, Ryan, standing nearby. From his expression, he'd overheard enough to be intrigued. "Everything okay over here?" Ryan asked, approaching us. "Fine," James and I said, in unison, too quickly. Ryan looked unconvinced, but was distracted by the wedding coordinator announcing it was time to take our seats. James gave me one last warning look before walking away. As I took my place in the front row, I noticed Melissa's maid of honor, Vanessa, watching me intently. There was something knowing in her gaze that sent a chill down my spine. Did she know about Melissa and Richard too? How many others were keeping this secret? The music started and Derek took his position at the altar, beaming with happiness and anticipation. The bridesmaids processed gracefully. Then the bridal march began, and everyone stood. Melissa appeared on her father's arm, radiant in white lace. As she passed me, our eyes met briefly, and in that moment, I saw not just nervousness about her wedding, but genuine fear about what would come after. Derek's face as he watched his bride approach was full of such pure love and joy that my resolve wavered. Could I really be the one to shatter that? Was the truth worth the pain it would cause? As the ceremony began, I had no idea that someone else was already setting events in motion that would make my ultimatum irrelevant, and my worst fears about this wedding day were about to be realized. The ceremony proceeded like a beautiful dream, or in my case, a waking nightmare. The minister spoke of honesty, trust, and lifelong commitment, while I sat with the knowledge of betrayal heavy in my heart. If anyone knows any reason why these two should not be joined in matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. The traditional phrase hung in the air. My hands gripped my purse so tightly my knuckles turned white. For one wild moment, I considered standing up, exposing everything right there. The moment passed. The ceremony continued. Vows were exchanged, rings were placed, and a kiss sealed their union. It was done. My son was married to a woman who had slept with his father. At the reception, I played my part, smiling for photographs, accepting congratulations, dancing with Derek. Each performance felt like another betrayal of my son. "You okay, Mom?" Derek asked during our dance. "You seem distracted." "Just emotional," I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. "My only child is married. It's a lot to process." He kissed my cheek. "I know Dad would have been proud today." The irony was almost too much to bear. As the evening progressed, I noticed Ryan, Derek's cousin, speaking intently with Vanessa, the maid of honor. Their conversation appeared serious, with frequent glances in Melissa's direction. Something about their interaction unsettled me. I made my way toward them, but before I could reach their table, Vanessa stood abruptly and headed for the restroom. I redirected and followed her. In the elegant bathroom, Vanessa was touching up her lipstick. She met my eyes in the mirror. "Mrs. Mitchell," she acknowledged coolly. "Lovely wedding." "Thank you," I replied. "You and Ryan seemed deep in conversation. Have you known each other long?" "Not really. We were just discussing some interesting information he overheard earlier." My stomach dropped. "What kind of information?" "About Melissa and your late husband." Her directness surprised me. "Ryan heard you arguing with Melissa's father about it." I felt the blood drain from my face. "It's complicated." "Isn't it always?" She leaned against the counter. "Melissa and I have been friends since college. I knew about Richard. I told her getting involved with Derek afterward was a bad idea." "You knew?" I whispered. "All this time?" She nodded. "I've kept her secret, though I didn't agree with her choices. But now Ryan knows, and he's considering telling Derek. Tonight." "He can't," I explained. "Not today. It would devastate him." "Would you rather he find out on his honeymoon, or after they start a family? When is the right time to learn your wife slept with your father?" She had a point, but still, this is their wedding day. Which is exactly why Ryan feels Derek deserves to know now, before they leave for their honeymoon. She checked her appearance one last time. "For what it's worth, I agree with you. Melissa should have told him from the beginning, but she was afraid." "Of losing him? Wouldn't you be?" She gave me a sad smile. "I should get back. I suggest you find Ryan before he finds Derek." She left me standing there, panic rising. I needed to find Ryan immediately. Back in the reception hall, I scanned the crowd frantically. I spotted Ryan near the bar, phone in hand, looking determined. As I hurried toward him, I was intercepted by Catherine. "Eleanor, is everything all right? You look pale." "Ryan knows about Melissa and Richard. He's going to tell Derek tonight." "How? Who told him?" "He overheard my conversation with James, and now he's disgusted with Vanessa." Catherine grabbed my arm. "We have to stop him. Where is he?" We both turned toward the bar, but Ryan was no longer there. Instead, I saw him approaching Derek, who was laughing with groomsmen near the dance floor. "There," I pointed, my heart racing. "We're too late." As we watched helplessly, Ryan pulled Derek aside, speaking into his ear. Derek's smile faded. replaced by confusion, then disbelief. His eyes sought out Melissa across the room, then darted to me with a look that cut straight to my soul. In that moment, I knew that the secret was out, and nothing would ever be the same again. But what happened next would shock us all, because Derek wasn't the only one with something to hide. Derek's face transformed before my eyes. The confusion gave way to something darker, rage mixed with profound hurt. Without a word to Ryan, he strode across the reception hall, weaving through dancing couples toward Melissa, who was chatting with her college friends, oblivious to the storm heading her way. Catherine and I moved simultaneously, trying to intercept him. "Derek, wait," I called, but the music drowned out my voice. He reached Melissa before we could stop him. When she turned and saw his expression, her smile vanished. He leaned in, whispering something in her ear. Her face crumpled. I finally reached them as Melissa was shaking her head desperately, tears welling in her eyes. "Derek," I touched his arm. "Not here. Not like this." He turned to me, betrayal etched in every line of his face. "You knew," he said flatly. "You knew, and you let this happen anyway." "I only found out 2 days ago," I said. "I wanted to give Melissa the chance to tell you herself, after the wedding." "After I was already trapped?" He laughed bitterly. "How considerate of you both." By now, guests were noticing the tension. James appeared at his daughter's side, while Melissa's bridesmaids formed a protective circle around her. "Derek, please," Melissa begged, reaching for him. "Let me explain." He stepped back from her touch. "Explain what? That you slept with my father? That you knew exactly who I was when we met? That our entire relationship is built on a lie?" His voice had risen, and nearby conversations ceased as people turned to stare. My heart broke for him. This public humiliation on what should have been the happiest day of his life. "Perhaps we should take this somewhere private," James suggested, attempting damage control. "Why?" Derek demanded. "Apparently everyone knew except me. My new wife, her parents, her friends, even my own mother, all conspiring to keep me in the dark." "Not everyone knew," I started to explain, but he cut me off. "But you did, Mom. You knew, and you stood there today and watched me marry her anyway." The accusation stung because it was true. I had put my desire for his happiness above his right to know the truth. Melissa was openly crying now. "Derek, please, I love you. What happened with your father was before I even knew you existed." "But once you did know, you chose to hide it. You could have told me when we first met. You could have walked away. Instead, you deliberately pursued a relationship with me, knowing what you'd done." The reception had ground to a halt. Guests were either watching in horrified fascination or pretending to be absorbed in their desserts. "I think," Oliver, Derek's best man, intervened, "that everyone needs to take a breath. Derek, let's step outside for a minute." Derek shook him off. "I'm leaving. Alone." He looked at Melissa with such raw pain that I had to look away. "The honeymoon's off. Don't follow me. Don't call me. I don't know what I need, but it's not this. Not you." As he turned to leave, Vanessa stepped forward unexpectedly. "Before you go, there's something else you should know." All eyes turned to her. "Vanessa, don't," Melissa pleaded. "He deserves the whole truth, Mel," Vanessa insisted. She faced Derek squarely. "Your father wasn't the only married man Melissa was involved with." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Melissa looked stricken. "What are you talking about?" Derek demanded. "Tell him, Mel," Vanessa challenged. "Tell him about Martin." The name meant nothing to me, but it clearly meant something to Derek. His face, already pale with shock, went completely white. "Martin," he repeated. "My boss, Martin?" Melissa's silence was confirmation enough. Derek looked around at the circle of faces, his new wife, her maid of honor, his mother, his in-laws, as if seeing strangers. Without another word, he walked out, leaving a reception hall frozen in scandalized silence. I moved to follow him, but Oliver stopped me. "Let me go. He needs a friend right now, not family." As Oliver hurried after Derek, the reception dissolved into chaos. Guests whispering, Melissa sobbing in her mother's arms, James Ross berating Vanessa for her public revelation. I stood in the middle of it all, stunned by this additional betrayal. But as I watched Vanessa's satisfied expression, I realized there was something calculated about her timing, something vindictive in her revelation. And I couldn't help but wonder why she had chosen to destroy her best friend's marriage within hours of the ceremony, and what else she might be hiding beneath her concerned facade. The wedding reception disintegrated rapidly after Derek's departure. Guests made awkward excuses and left in droves, while Melissa's parents tried to salvage some dignity by announcing their daughter had fallen ill and the celebrations were ending early. I found Melissa in the bridal suite, surrounded by discarded champagne glasses and wilting flower arrangements. She sat alone, still in her wedding gown, mascara streaking her cheeks. "He won't answer my calls," she said when I entered, not looking up. 17 calls and he's blocked me." Despite everything, I felt a stab of pity. "He needs time." "Time won't change what happened." She finally met my gaze. "I've lost him, haven't I?" I sat beside her on the small sofa. "I don't know, Melissa. The betrayal runs deep." "I should have told him from the start," she whispered. "About Richard, at least." "And Martin?" I couldn't help asking. "Derek's boss?" Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "That was after I met Derek. We were having problems, had broken up briefly. Martin was a mistake, a one-time thing I've regretted every day since." "Does Derek know that?" "He suspected something happened during our break. I denied it. And now Vanessa's made it sound like I've been sleeping with Martin all along, like I have some pattern of pursuing married men." I thought about Vanessa's calculated intervention. Why would she do that? I thought she was your friend. Melissa laughed bitterly. "So did I. But Vanessa's always been jealous. She was in love with Martin herself for years. When she found out about our indiscretion, she never forgave me." "So this was revenge?" "Perfect revenge," Melissa agreed. "She got to punish me and Martin in one fell swoop. His wife was at the wedding. Did you see her face when Vanessa dropped that bomb?" I hadn't, but I could imagine. The ripple effects of these revelations would be widespread. "What will you do now?" I asked. She shrugged helplessly. "Wait? Hope? I don't know how to fix this." She looked at me directly. "Would you talk to him? He respects you. If you told him I truly love him—" "I can't do that, Melissa," I interrupted gently. "Not only because I'm not sure he would believe me right now, but because I don't know if it's true." "How can you say that?" she protested. "Of course I love him." "Do you? Or do you love the idea of him? The good man, so different from his father, the security he represents, the chance at redemption?" I wasn't trying to be cruel, but the questions needed asking. She was silent for a long moment. "I don't know anymore," she finally admitted. "I thought I did. Now I'm not sure of anything." We sat in silence until Catherine appeared at the door. "The venue needs us out in 30 minutes. James has the car waiting." I stood to leave, but Melissa caught my hand. "Eleanor, I truly am sorry for everything with Richard. He talked about you, you know, said you were the best thing that ever happened to him, that he didn't deserve you." The revelation hit me hard. In all the chaos about Derek, I'd almost forgotten my own betrayal by Richard. He was right about that, at least. As I drove home in the gathering darkness, my phone rang.
It was Oliver. "I'm with Derek at my place," he said without preamble. Well, he's been better." "Is he all right?" I asked anxiously. "He's had a few drinks, talking about flying to Mexico tomorrow. Alone." "The honeymoon," I realized. "Yeah. Says he already paid for it, might as well use it to drink himself into oblivion somewhere with a beach." Oliver sounded worried. "He doesn't want to see anyone right now, but I thought you should know his plans." After thanking Oliver, I sat in my driveway for a long time, engine off, staring at my dark house. In less than 72 hours, my world had completely unraveled. My late husband was not the man I thought, my new daughter-in-law was not who she presented herself to be, and my son was hurting in ways I couldn't fix. As I finally went inside, I noticed a light blinking on my answering machine. The timestamp showed the call had come during the wedding. I pressed play, expecting a telemarketer or wrong number. Instead, a male voice I didn't recognize spoke. "Mrs. Mitchell, you don't know me, but I have information about your husband and Melissa Ross that you need to hear. There is more to the story than you know. Much more. Call me at this number when you get this message." I replayed it twice, my heart racing. What more could there possibly be? And who was this mysterious caller who seemed to know so much about my family's secrets?
I stared at the answering machine, debating whether to call the number. It was nearly midnight, too late for a proper call, but curiosity and dread battled within me. What more could there possibly be to this already devastating situation? Sleep was impossible. I paced my living room, the events of the day replaying in my mind. By dawn, I'd made my decision. I dialed the number left on my machine. It rang 4 times before a gruff voice answered. "Hello? This is Eleanor Mitchell," I said. "You left me a message about my husband and Melissa Ross?" "Mrs. Mitchell." He sounded relieved. "Thank you for calling back. My name is Howard Reeves. I was your husband's business partner." This surprised me. Richard never mentioned a Howard Reeves. "No, he wouldn't have," Howard replied. "Our arrangement was confidential. Is there somewhere we could meet? This isn't a conversation for the phone." We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe downtown at 9. As I dressed, I tried to imagine what this man might tell me. More affairs? Financial improprieties? At this point, nothing would surprise me about Richard. Howard was easy to spot. A stocky man in his 60s with a shock of white hair, sitting alone by the window. He stood when I approached, extending his hand. "Mrs. Mitchell, thank you for coming. Please, call me Eleanor," I said, taking a seat. "You said you have information about my husband and Melissa Ross?" He nodded, sliding a manila folder across the table. "First, I want to express my condolences, both for your husband's passing and for yesterday's events. News travels fast in this town." I flinched at the reminder that my family's disgrace was now public knowledge. "Thank you. Now, what's this about?" "I worked with Richard for nearly 8 years, not at his accounting firm, at least not the legitimate one. We ran a separate operation, helping certain clients hide assets, avoid taxes, launder money. Nothing violent, but definitely illegal." I felt the blood drain from my face. "That's impossible. Richard was an honest man." Howard's smile was sad. "I'm afraid not. Your husband led a double life for many years. And Melissa, how does she fit in?" "She worked for us briefly as a consultant. That's how she and Richard met. But their relationship became complicated." "They had an affair," I said flatly. "Yes, but it was more than that." Howard leaned forward.
Melissa discovered what we were doing and threatened to expose us unless Richard paid her. She blackmailed him? This didn't align with the Melissa I'd come to know, however flawed she might be. Initially, Howard confirmed, but then something changed. They genuinely fell for each other, I think. The blackmail evolved into partnership. She began helping us, using her financial expertise to create more sophisticated schemes. My mind struggled to process this information. So Melissa was Richard's criminal accomplice? For about a year, yes, until Richard decided to end it, both the affair and the illegal activities. He was going to come clean, make amends. Howard's expression darkened. That's when things went very wrong. His heart attack, a terrible suspicion forming. Howard nodded grimly. The timing was convenient for certain parties who didn't want our operation exposed. Are you suggesting Richard was murdered? The cafe suddenly felt too warm, too small. I don't have proof, Howard admitted, but I have suspicions. Strong ones. Richard contacted me the day before he died, said he had evidence in a safe deposit box that would blow everything wide open. He never told me what that evidence was or where to find the box. And you think Melissa was involved? The question felt surreal leaving my lips. I don't know, Howard said honestly. But after Richard died, she disappeared for nearly a year. When she resurfaced, she had a new identity, new credentials. And then, coincidentally, she meets and falls in love with Richard's son? You think she sought Derek out deliberately? I think it's a remarkable coincidence if she didn't, Howard replied. Eleanor, I've kept silent for years out of self-preservation, but when I heard Melissa was marrying Derek, I couldn't stay quiet. He needs to know who she's really married to. He already knows about the affair. The marriage is likely over. The affair is the least of it, Howard insisted. If I'm right about Melissa's involvement in Richard's death, he didn't finish the sentence. I sat back, overwhelmed. Why tell me this? Why not go to the police? Because I'm implicated too, he admitted. And because you deserve to know the truth about your husband, the complete truth. As I left the cafe, clutching the folder Howard had given me, my mind raced with questions. Could Melissa really be capable of murder? Was Richard's death not the natural tragedy we had believed? And most urgently, was Derek in danger from the woman he'd just married? What I didn't notice, in my distracted state, was the sleek black car parked across the street, or the camera lens capturing my meeting with Howard Reeves, evidence that would soon put both of us in grave danger. I spent the rest of the morning in a daze, Howard's revelations echoing in my mind. The folder he'd given me contained photos, financial records, and handwritten notes that painted a disturbing picture of Richard's secret life. I had been married to a stranger. Around noon, my phone rang. Derek. Mom? His voice was hoarse. I'm at the airport. Derek, are you still going to Mexico? Yeah. He sounded exhausted. I need to get away, clear my head. We need to talk before you go, I said urgently. I've learned something about Melissa and your father, something serious. More serious than her sleeping with Dad? His bitter laugh broke my heart. I can't take any more right now, Mom. Derek, please, I think you might be in danger. The words sounded melodramatic even to my own ears. From what? A broken heart? Too late. He sighed. My flight's boarding. I'll call you when I get there. Derek. But he had already hung up. I tried calling back immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. In frustration, I called Oliver. He's determined to go, Oliver confirmed when I explained my concerns. I tried to talk him out of it too. Can you tell me which resort in Mexico in case of emergency? Oliver hesitated. He made me promise not to tell anyone, even you, Eleanor. He really wants to be alone. After hanging up, I sat with the folder spread before me, unsure what to do next. If Howard's suspicions were correct, going to the police could put Derek in more danger, but doing nothing felt equally risky. My doorbell rang, startling me from my thoughts. Through the peephole, I saw Vanessa, Melissa's maid of honor, shifting nervously on my porch. I opened the door cautiously. Vanessa? What are you doing here? I need to talk to you about Melissa. May I come in? I hesitated, then stood aside. As she entered, I quickly gathered the documents from the coffee table and slipped them into a drawer. I know you must hate me after what I did at the reception. She perched on the edge of my sofa. I don't hate you, I said honestly, but I am curious why you chose that moment to reveal Melissa's affair with Martin. Vanessa looked down at her hands. It wasn't just spite, though Melissa probably thinks so. I had other reasons, such as protection, she said simply. I was trying to protect Derek. From a cheating wife? The damage was already done. She shook her head. From something worse. I've known Melissa since college. She's not who she pretends to be. My pulse quickened. What do you mean? Did you know she changed her name? Before she was Melissa Ross, she was Melissa Cordova. Vanessa leaned forward. I only found out by accident a few years ago. When I confronted her, she made me swear never to tell anyone. Why would she change her name? She said it was to escape an abusive ex. I believed her until... She trailed off. Until what? Until I overheard her on the phone last month, speaking fluent Spanish to someone she called Javier. She was angry, saying things like, it wasn't part of the plan, and I can't get access yet. She met my eyes. When I asked her about it later, she claimed it was a wrong number, but I know what I heard. The revelation aligned disturbingly well with Howard's story. Why are you telling me this? Because after the wedding disaster, I went to her apartment to apologize. I know it sounds crazy after what I did, but she was still my friend. Vanessa's voice trembled. Her place was empty, Eleanor. Not just empty, cleared out. Like she'd been planning to disappear all along. A chill ran down my spine. Have you told anyone else? No, I came straight here. I thought you should know, especially since... Since what? Since I saw you meeting with Howard Reeves this morning. I stiffened. You were following me? Not intentionally. I was at the cafe across the street and saw you together. Her expression was earnest. I recognized him from photos in Melissa's apartment. She had a whole file on him. This was getting more disturbing by the minute. Vanessa, I think you should go to the police. I can't, she said, fear evident in her voice. Melissa has connections, dangerous ones. People who wouldn't hesitate to silence someone they saw as a threat. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? I answered cautiously. Mrs. Mitchell. It was Howard, his voice tense. I have a problem. I think I'm being followed. The documents I gave you, keep them safe. Don't trust anyone. I'll call you when I... The call cut off abruptly. I tried calling back, but there was no answer. Vanessa watched me with wide eyes. Was that him? Howard? I nodded slowly, a terrible realization dawning on me. Vanessa, When exactly did you see me with Howard this morning? Around 9. Why? And you came straight here afterwards? She shifted uncomfortably. Well, no. I had some errands to run first. Who did you tell about seeing us together? I backed away from her slightly. Her expression changed, something calculating replacing her fear. You're smarter than Melissa gave you credit for. As she reached into her purse, I realized with horrifying clarity that I'd invited danger right into my home, and Derek, thousands of miles away, had no idea what was coming for him.
I lunged for the kitchen, slamming the door behind me and fumbling for the lock. Vanessa's footsteps followed, unhurried. "Eleanor?" she called, her voice eerily calm. "This doesn't have to be difficult." My hand shook as I grabbed my cell phone from the counter and dialed 911. Before I could press call, the kitchen door splintered open. Vanessa stood in the doorway, a small pistol aimed at my chest. "Put the phone down," she ordered. I obeyed, setting it on the counter. "Vanessa, whatever Melissa's involved in, you don't have to be part of it." She laughed. "Melissa, she's just a pawn, ambitious but ultimately expendable. Then who are you working for? People who have spent years building something your husband and Howard nearly destroyed." She gestured with the gun. "The folder Howard gave you, where is it?" "In the living room drawer," I admitted, seeing no advantage in lying. "Let's go get it, shall we?" She motioned me forward. As we entered the living room, a car door slammed outside. Vanessa tensed, moving to the window to peek through the curtains. "Expecting someone?" I asked. "Shut up," she snapped, clearly unsettled. The moment her attention wavered, I grabbed a heavy crystal vase from the side table and hurled it at her head. She dodged, but the distraction was enough. I bolted for the front door, yanking it open. To my shock, Melissa stood on my porch, hand raised to knock. Her eyes widened at my panicked expression, then darted past me to Vanessa. "Eleanor, get down." She pushed me aside as Vanessa fired. The bullet missed us both, embedding in the doorframe. Melissa reached into her jacket and pulled out her own gun, returning fire as we dove behind my porch furniture. "What are you doing here?" I gasped. "Trying to prevent exactly this," she replied, eyes fixed on the door. "Howard called me after he spoke to you." "Howard? But he thinks you might have killed Richard." She spared me a quick glance. "I didn't kill Richard. I loved him. And I love Derek too, complicated as that is." Vanessa appeared in the doorway, weapon raised. Melissa fired again, forcing her back in. "The police are on their way," Melissa called out. "It's over, Vanessa. For you, maybe. You were always too soft for this business, falling in love with your targets. Pathetic." "Richard wasn't a target," Melissa replied. "Neither was Derek." "Keep telling yourself that. Your handlers were very clear on the mission. Get close to Mitchell, access his client list. When you fell for him instead and threatened to expose everything, they eliminated him." I stared at Melissa, whose face had gone pale. "You didn't know?" she whispered. I suspected, but I couldn't prove it. That's why I disappeared after Richard died. I was investigating. "And then you found Derek," I said, the pieces clicking into place. "By coincidence, initially. But when I realized who he was, I thought maybe he knew something, had access to information Richard might have left behind." "So you pursued him for information?" The betrayal stung anew. "At first," she admitted, "but then I fell in love with him. For real. The way I did with Richard." Sirens wailed in the distance. Inside the house, I heard movement. Vanessa wasn't waiting around to be captured. "She's running," Melissa hissed, rising to pursue her. "Let her go," I urged, grabbing Melissa's arm. "The police will handle it." "You don't understand. Melissa knows everything. All the players, all the accounts. If she gets away, then what? You'll kill her to protect yourself?" Melissa's expression hardened. "To protect Derek. Your son is still in danger, Eleanor. They know he's going to Mexico.
Alone? My blood ran cold. How do we warn him? I have the name of his resort, but he's blocked my number. She looked at me pointedly. I'll call him, I said, pulling out my phone. But Derek wasn't answering my calls either. As the police cars pulled up to my house, I made a decision. We're going to Mexico. Now. Mrs. Mitchell, she started, the police will have questions, and we'll answer them after we ensure Derek's safety. You say you love my son? Prove it. The next few hours were a blur, giving abbreviated statements to the police, packing hastily, arranging emergency flights. By evening, Melissa and I were on a plane to Cancun, 2 women bound by complicated love for the same man. Do you think he'll forgive either of us? Melissa asked quietly as the plane began its descent. I don't know, I answered honestly, but right now forgiveness isn't the priority. Keeping him alive is. As we exited the airport into the humid Mexican night, my phone finally rang. Derek. Mom, why have you called 12 times? He asked, irritation clear in his voice. I told you I needed space. Derek, listen carefully, I said, locking eyes with Melissa. You're in danger. Is your room secure? Are you alone? What are you talking about? Of course I'm alone. Wait, how did you know I'd arrived? I haven't told anyone which resort I'm at. We know because Melissa knows, and she's not the only one. There was a long silence, then Derek's voice, suddenly alert. Someone's at my door. The line went dead. Melissa and I exchanged horrified looks as we raced for a taxi, both knowing we might already be too late. But what awaited us at the resort would change everything we thought we knew about Richard, about Derek, and about the tangled web of deception that had ensnared us all.